I was just about to rinse off, but the door creaked open, and there he was, my nephew standing there, his eyes wide with shock. I froze, the hot water running down, my body suddenly feeling cold. Margaret Martin's voice was hesitant, almost as if he hadn't expected to find me like this. The silence stretched heavy and suffocating. Why hadn't he knocked? My heart raced. This wasn't how things were supposed to be. It felt like the world had shifted beneath me. And yet, there he stood, his gaze flickering between the floor and me, unsure of what to do next. I could feel a strange tension building between us. Something neither of us had ever expected. Martin. "What the hell are you doing?" I demanded, my voice shaky, with a mixture of anger and confusion. He didn't answer. Right away, he seemed lost in the moment, almost as if he couldn't tear his eyes away. My heart pounded in my chest, and for a moment it felt like I couldn't breathe. Why hadn't he left yet? This moment, this unexpected encounter, was already beginning to feel like it was out of control. Lucas stood there frozen in place, his breathing shallow, as if he too was trying to process what had just happened. I could see his lips part as if he was going to say something. But nothing came out. It was as if words had abandoned him. I wanted to scream, to demand that he leave, but something inside me held me back. My heart raced in my chest, every inch of my body, screaming for him to leave. Yet there was something about the way he stood there, so close, that made me hesitate. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. I could feel my body reacting to his presence. Though I tried to suppress it, it was wrong. Everything about this situation was wrong. But I couldn't ignore the way my pulse quickened. His eyes lingered on me, but not in the way you'd expect. There was something more in his gaze, something deeper. I had seen that look before, but not from him, not from someone so close to me. Margaret, his voice was barely a whisper, almost as if he was testing the waters. He was still standing there, unmoving. "I didn't mean to. I didn't know you were." He trailed off, fumbling for the right words, but it was clear he was struggling to find them. I could feel my emotions churning inside me, a mix of anger, confusion, and something else I did want to admit. My mind was telling me to push him away, to tell him to get out and never come back. But my body, my instincts were betraying me. The tension between us grew thicker. With every passing second, "You need to leave," I said, my voice firm, despite the chaos inside me. But Lass didn't move. His eyes were fixed on me, filled with something I couldn't quite understand, an intensity that both unsettled and intrigued me. "What's wrong?" Margaret asked, his voice laced with an almost unsettling calmness. "You've never seemed so distant before. What's going on?" The question hung in the air, and for a moment I was paralyzed by it. Why hadn't he left? Why wasn't he respecting my space, my privacy? Something about the way he looked at me, the way he spoke, made me feel like I was no longer in control. "Would you dare to know what's next? What's going through Martin's mind? Like, share, and subscribe to find out what happens." I could feel the heat of Martin's gaze burning into me, and despite myself, I couldn't pull my eyes away. I had always seen him as just my nephew, innocent, younger, someone who is supposed to be a distant part of my life. But now, with him standing so close, there felt charged, as if something was shifting between us. I felt vulnerable, exposed. But at the same time, I couldn't deny the strange pull I felt. "Margaret," he said again, his voice lowered. This time his tone had changed. It was no longer filled with confusion. Now it carried a hint of something darker, something I hadn't expected from him. "You're not telling me everything." I swallowed hard, my heart pounding in my chest. My mind screamed for me to stop, him to tell him to leave. But I couldn't find the words. I couldn't understand what was happening to me. Why was I still standing there at this moment, with him, so close? Why was I letting it continue? It tried to turn away, but his presence was overpowering. He took a step forward, closing the gap between us. The water from the shower splashed onto the floor. As I stood there, frozen in place, my pulse quickening. "What do you want from me, Martin?" I whispered, my voice trembling, with a mixture of fear and something I couldn't quite define. This isn't right, but Led seemed to care about what was right. His hand reached out, his fingers brushing lightly against my arm, sending an unexpected shiver through me. "I want you to stop pretending," he said softly, his eyes locking onto mine. "You're not the person you're trying to be." I couldn't breathe. My heart thudded in my chest, and for the first time I felt a strange sense of danger, like I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't control. The tension in the room was suffocating, the silence deafening. All I could hear was the sound of my own breath, shallow and uneven. Was this really happening? Was this my nephew, the person I had always kept at arm's length? Why was he here? Why was he doing this? I opened my mouth to speak, to demand that they leave, but nothing came out. I was caught in his gaze, trapped by the intensity of it. He was no longer the boy I had known. He was someone else, someone dangerous. I could feel Martin's fingers lingering on my skin, an almost electric touch that sent a wave of conflicting emotions rushing through me. My body was betraying me, reacting in ways that I couldn't understand. I wanted to push him away, to scream at him to leave, but something inside me was frozen, unable to move. His gaze never left, mine dark and intense. He took another step closer, his presence overwhelming. I felt trapped in this moment, in a space between what was right and what was becoming impossible. To deny Margaret. He whispered, his breath warm against my ear. "You can't keep pretending. Everything is okay. You've been shutting me out for too long. I see it in your eyes." Every time we're together, my mind was racing, thoughts swirling in a chaotic mess. What was he talking about? What did he mean by shutting him out? I had always kept ascertain distance, but this was different. This felt like it was no longer about just family. It felt person. I opened my mouth to protest, to tell him to stop, but the words didn't come. All I could do was stand there, frozen in place, every instinct telling me to run, but my feet refusing to move. Martin's hand moved slowly down my arm, his touch light, but intentional, like he was trying to send a message I wasn't ready to hear. "I know you feel it too," he said, his voice low, almost coaxing. "You've been so distant, so cold, but I can feel what's between us. I know you want this." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was he serious? Was he really saying that? My chest tightened and my heart raced. Even faster. This couldn't be happening, but the way he was looking at me, the way his hand lingered on my skin, it was as if he had already made up his mind about something. "I wasn't ready to face you. Need to leave." I managed to say, my voice shaky, but I knew it wasn't convincing. My body didn't want him to go, but my mind screamed for him to get out and leave before I did something I would regret. But last did move instead. He took another step closer, and I felt my breath catch in my throat. "You don't really want me to leave, Margaret," he said softly. "You just want to convince yourself that you do." I couldn't believe it. How had we gone from an innocent family moment to this unbearable tension? Would Sophie be able to stand firm? Or will she give in? Like, share, and subscribe to find out how this dangerous game unfolds. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as Martin's words hung in the air. His face was so close now, his breath mixing with mine, and all I could do was stand there trying to steady myself. I didn't know how we had gotten Hear how this moment, this unbearable tension had crept up on me, without warning. "You don't really want me to leave, Margaret," he said again. His voice softer now, almost as if he was speaking the truth. The words sent a chill down my spine, but at the same time a strange part of me felt seen vulnerable. I swallowed hard, trying to gather my thoughts, but everything inside me felt clouded. I wanted to shout at him, tell him to stop, but there was a deep pit in my stomach, a knot of confusion that made it hard to think clearly. Why was I still standing here? Why hadn't I pushed him away? I don't know what you think is happening here, but this is wrong. I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. But Lucas wasn't listening. He was too close now, his hand gently cupping my chin, his thumb brushing over my skin in a way that made me breath hitch. It felt like a slow, steady pressure was building between us, like we were both teetering on the edge of something we couldn't take back. "Think you do know?" he replied. His voice calm, almost soothing, as if he were trying to convince me of something. "I think you've been waiting for this moment just as much as I have." I shook my head, trying to pull away, but he wasn't letting me. "No," I said more forcefully, "this time. This isn't us. This isn't what we're supposed to be." But even as I said the words, I could feel the distance. Between us shrinking, his eyes were on mine, searching, and there was something in them, something dark, something that made me wonder if I was making a mistake by pushing him away. "You're not fooling anyone, Margaret," he whispered. "Not even yourself." It was too much. I felt a mixture of rage, guilt, and something else, something deep and forbidden. Welling up inside me, was this really happening? Was really this close, this invasive? Why wasn't I stopping him? I could feel my pulse racing as he took another step forward, his face inches from mine. The room was spinning and I couldn't think straight. My body was betraying me again. I felt the heat rise between us, an overwhelming tension I had never experienced before. The air felt charged, heavy with unspoken words, with possibilities that should never have crossed our minds. The door was still open, the world outside still spinning, but in that moment, it was just the two of us. The room seemed to close in the walls, pressing tighter and tighter. I was standing on the edge, my body trembling, caught between the weight of what was right and the burning temptation that was impossible to ignore. Martin's presence seemed to consume the room, and my thoughts scattered like leaves in the wind. The heat between us was undeniable, and I could feel the pull growing stronger despite every part of me. Screaming to stop, he reached for me, again his hand gently resting on my shoulder. But this time I didn't pull away. I couldn't. Something inside me had shifted, something I couldn't name. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was dangerous. But the desire, the tension had built to a point where I wasn't sure I could stop it, even if I wanted to. Martin's voice was low, a whisper of temptation. "I've always wanted you, Margaret," he said, his words sinking into him like a sharp blade. "I can't keep pretending that I don't." The confession hit me like a wave crashing over me, drowning me in shock and disbelief. How had we gotten here? How had I let things go this far? But the moment I looked into his eyes, I knew that there was no turning back now. My hands trembled, and I could feel my breath coming in. Shallow gasps. "This isn't right." I whispered the words, barely escaping my lips, but they sounded weak even to me. Martin's eyes darkened, and I could see the hunger in them now. The tension that had been building for so long was finally reaching its breaking point, and there was no way to stop it. "I don't care anymore, Margaret. I want you and you want me too." He pulled me closer, his lips brushing against my ear, and in that moment, I realized that everything had changed. The boundaries, the rules, the unspoken lines that had defined us, all of it was gone, erased by the force of this unbearable attraction. I closed my eyes, the world spinning. Around me I was lost, trapped in this moment with him unable to move. Unable to think the consequences of what we were about to do weighed heavily on me. But in this instant, all I could feel was the overwhelming need to be close to him, to feel him, to give in. But before anything could happen, I heard the sound of footsteps outside the bathroom. My heart skipped a beat, and I pulled away, panic flooding my veins. This wasn't just a forbidden moment anymore. It was a mistake waiting to be exposed. Margaret, a voice called from the hallway. It was a voice I knew. Too well, my heart sank. I quickly turned toward the door, my mind racing. This couldn't happen. Not now. Not like this. Get out, I whispered to Martin, my voice trembling with fear and guilt now. But as he stepped back, the tension in the room remained thick and heavy. I could still feel the weight of what almost happened. The thin thread that had been holding us together now snapped, leaving us both standing on the precipice of something irreversible. What now? Will Sophia be able to hide the truth, or will everything come crashing down? Like, share, and subscribe to find out what happens next, just as I thought I'd gained some control. A deep gut-wrenching realization hit me. The footsteps outside the bathroom grew closer, but it wasn't just anyone. It was Shim, my husband, the one person who had always been oblivious to everything. I froze, every fiber of my being screamed in panic. But there was no escaping the consequences of what we had almost done. I looked at Lucas. One last time, his face conflicted, unsure of what to do. We were caught in a moment that neither Ophis could take back the doorknob. Turned, I rushed to pull on my robe, but my hands were shaking too much. Lucas stepped back, eyes wide with fear and guilt. He knew it wasn't just a line we had crossed. It was a line that had changed everything. As the door opened, I was faced with the last thing I expected. My husband standing in the doorway, holding his phone in his hand. "Margaret," said his voice trembling.